1883 Season 1 Episode 10 was a low-key episode, winding down the trip on the Oregon Trail. Some never made it out of Texas. Others never made it to Wyoming. Some stayed in Montana, and others went the distance, only to say goodbye in the end. This Is Not Your Heaven primarily followed Elsa Dutton to her final resting place, the future home of the Dutton Ranch. Yellowstone, the national park, was born in 1872, but it's hard to imagine at this point that the Yellowstone Ranch was named in honor of it. No, with this family's history, it makes more sense that the ranch would be named after the final resting place for Lightning with the yellow hair. Whether it's the truth or not doesn't matter. Elsa is as indelible to the modern-day ranch as she was to their trip on the Oregon Trail. Once Elsa got shot by a Lakota arrow covered in manure, she had little chance of survival. When her liver was nicked, she had no chance whatsoever. Thankfully, James and Margaret didn't have to decide to put her out of her misery. But they did have to lie to her about her chances of survival. Elsa could read her father. His eyes told a tale he wasn't ready to reveal, and it's only because of her weakened state that Elsa was suckered into believing she wasn't on death's doorstep. She saw the worry in his eyes, and for his sake as much as hers, she allowed herself some breathing room, painful as it was. Elsa was an eternal optimist, believing the best in most even if they had the worst intentions. Most of all, she believed in herself and her ability to overcome. It was her driving force. Seeing beauty where sorrow had dug hold was one of her superpowers. She had an unending capacity for empathy and compassion, which allowed her to connect with strangers, family, and everyone she met. She had a keen insight into people's decision-making process, knowing during 1883 Season 1 Episode 9 that following the other pioneers wouldn't end well.
Well, if I can't come meet you on the beach.
Elsa gathered herself, focusing instead on her resting place. She would choose where her family would live. It wasn't just where she would rest, but where the people she loved would thrive in her absence. So, when Elsa recognized her fate in her father's eyes and broke down crying, we all cried. She knew he had lied to her, but the idea that she clung to his lies for her sliver of hope was heartbreaking. Seeing Elsa's hope disappear, her optimism turning to resignation, hurt like hell. Of course, Elsa would still communicate with us after death. She needed to share what to expect from heaven. It's a place of your own creation, where all of your dreams come true. For Elsa, that meant reuniting with Sam. When Lightning's hooves came into view, I thought James had ridden Elsa's horse to tell Sam of her fate. I don't know if Elsa created Sam in her heaven because I'd rather believe the two were joined again in the afterlife, whatever that meant.
Just look at that, Helen. Isn't it beautiful?
Shay saw in Elsa a life fully lived, well beyond her years and even his. To Sam, Elsa lived more in her short life than anyone he knew. Elsa and Sam reuniting makes sense, especially when taken with Shay's final moments. Shay made it to the ocean carrying his beloved Helen in his heart. When he sensed her presence through a surprising beachfront hummingbird, Shay no longer needed his beating heart. It was full, and he took his life. Joseph had lost his leg and his wife, but he chose a homestead. It wasn't the life of freedom he had imagined, but he persevered. He was one of only two of the pioneers to make it to their destination to start fresh.
You want the river? I'll stake you a river.
Naomi was the other, with Thomas at her side. They found their future in Oregon, going the distance and falling in love along the way. By the time the credits rolled, it was a year in the future, but we didn't know how the Duttons managed their grief. Saying goodbye to everyone else, we have to wait for a cameo on another show in the Dutton universe or 1883 Season 2 to see what comes next.